Gators Breakdown episode 112 is ready to go. Missouri pounds Florida, and it's obvious the Florida football program needs a reset. I'm your host, David Waters, and you can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SCC, and I'm flying solo for this short episode, as short as I can get it. I may get off on a tangent or rant here, but we'll see how it goes. Just to get my thoughts out there, kind of busy trying to get my house packed and ready to move in a couple of weeks, so my schedule's all over the place right now. But wanted to give you guys an episode when I found the time today, the day after Florida gets pounded by Missouri. And not a pretty look for our Gators out there. Remember, you can find all your past, present, and future Gators Breakdown episodes on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just search on those sites to get the links by following Gators Breakdown on Twitter and on Facebook at Gators Breakdown. And hey, remember, when you're on iTunes, if you use iTunes, please rate and review the show. Let Gator Nation know what they're getting out there with Gators Breakdown. And guys, I know out there it's tough when our team's looking the way they are, and what we see from our team when it's not pretty. And believe me, I know these podcasts aren't pretty either. I try my best not to harp on so much of the negative, but it's kind of what it is right now. And I kind of hate that term. It is what it is, but it is. I mean, that's what we're seeing with this Florida football program right now. And, you know, I know people don't like to listen to the negativity, and believe me, listener numbers are higher when the team is winning and morale is positive. But I'm going to try and give my spin on this. It's not pretty. We know the issues. We know what's happening with the program, but it must be talked about. So, I wish it was under different circumstances. I wish our Gators were winning, but that's the case we're being dealt right now with the Gators that we follow and love so much. So, not much X's and O's to discuss as Florida was just manhandled by Missouri 45-16. Missouri just put it on them. They whooped Florida. And it really started with the surprise of the defense getting owned by the Missouri offense in every facet of the game. From the get-go, Drew Lock threw an interception on the first drive, but you could just tell these guys were ready and they were going to put it on Florida. So just going to go over some few stats about this game and then kind of go, where in for what it can mean for this program, even though they're kind of just stuck spinning its wheels until the season is over. But we'll kind of dive into what this kind of game meant and kind of stretching and what it meant from the Jim McElwain side of the program and where it's at right now. But Florida has allowed 42 points in back-to-back games for the first time in nearly 100 years. They did it 3 straight times from in 1917, from November 3rd to the 29th. Back then, it comes from ESPN Stats and Info. Also, for Florida, tied for the worst loss versus an unranked opponent in the last 40 seasons. These stats aren't pretty, people. It is not pretty. Missouri quarterback Drew Lock was pressured. This comes from a Pro Football Focus college football section there. Missouri quarterback Drew Lock was pressured on just 5 of his 21 drop-back attempts against Florida and performed well in the process. He had a 130.2 passer rating, was kept clean from pressure. He was 10 of 16 for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception when he was kept clean from pressure. And just a couple more stats to kind of just show how bad it was. We're not really going to break down the game. That's not what we're going to do here because, like I said, it's more just about X's and O's. But for against Florida, Missouri had 227 yards rushing. In other SEC games this season, Missouri rushed for 178 versus South Carolina, 124 versus Auburn, 213 versus Kentucky, 59 versus Georgia. So this Florida defense gave up the most rushing yards to this Missouri team for the whole season. And you could see it as you were watching. The defense looked slow, uninterested, completely checked out. And look, I hate calling out players for lack of effort. It's very hard to gauge, but it wasn't very hard to see versus Missouri. And, we get it also from a Florida player, David Reese, in this post-game presser. He had a lot to say about this. And the quote from David Reese was, "I just want to say one thing. We loved every single one of our coaches that's been through here. It's unfortunate what's happened to them. I hate the way we represented our coaches like that today with this game. Those guys really care for us and gave us a real good game plan to do what we had to do. It's sometimes disappointing when everybody doesn't want to come together and just play for each other. That's sad to see. We've still got a lot to play for. Me personally and our defense, we just want to play for those guys. We can't have appearances like we just had today. That's unacceptable. So, it lets you know there's a segment in the locker room. The locker room is segmented. It's broken up. You have players who don't care. You have players that don't want to try. You have players that do want to try. You have players that do want to go out there and make a difference. But when everybody's not on the same page, this is what you're going to get. And after a firing, hey, look, this stuff happens. And I'll go into that later on. But you had a chance to kind of come together and rally, and you didn't take that rallying point. The team got even further apart from each other, and it really showed. And look, let's not forget about the offense. David Reese kind of maybe was pointing at the offense in a way. If you really want to break down this quote, I don't want to make assumptions there, but it's kind of the way it sounded to me a little bit, where some of the guys he was talking about, maybe talking about that side of the ball some. But let's not forget about this offense. And of course we can't. It's a sad state of affairs, and continue to see what we've been seeing for quite some time. There was a glimmer of hope and change with Malik Zaire starting, but I held the reservation because of offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier. And, well, that was the case again. We got more of having a mobile quarterback and not using his legs. We got more play action when it didn't make sense on long down and distance situations. We had a lack of getting the ball in playmakers' hands like Dre Massey, when he clearly showed he was a guy that was making plays against Missouri. Once again, a complete and utter failure. This program needs to change, and thankfully we know it's coming. Also, this game showed where subpar recruiting has caught up with the Gators. And I was discussing with my co-host Bill Sykes. You guys know he joins here on Gators Breakdown, and and he said it best about this 2017 season. When you kind of go back and look at it right now, recruiting placed, and this is a quote from Bill, recruiting placed a low ceiling above these 2017 Gators. Injuries, suspensions, coaching cut the floor out from under them, end quote. And look, guys, that is no more evident than lack of recruiting a quarterback, maulers on the offensive line, depth at defensive tackle, lack of depth and talent at safety. It shows all over the field right now. And going back and looking at that game against Missouri, of course, Jim McElwain was, for him and Florida separated for a reason. But look, it is painfully obvious, and it is obvious this program needs a reset. Not just a coaching change, but a different mentality altogether. The all shucks, lackadaisical approach from Jim McElwain filtered down to the entire football program. From recruiting to on-the-field mannerisms, Florida football took on that culture, and it showed more than ever the last couple of weeks. Hardly any accountability was ever shown under Jim McElwain, and I think that's why we're getting what we're getting right now. The locker room is broken, it's segmented, and it starts at the top. Some of the coaches don't get along, and it shows more than ever. Teams rally all the time for an interim coach. We just saw it last year with LSU. But this Gator team showed no desire to do so. It really just looks like going through the motions to get to the end of the season. After last week and McElwain being part of the program, it was time. It was a chance to change some things after him and Florida decided to part ways. But we can see that that's not going to happen. The changes from the interim stature with Randy Shannon and these offensive coaches and these defensive coaches that are still now on staff, nothing's going to happen. There was a chance to end the season on a good note by playing teams you can beat, but they have to want to beat these teams. It was a chance to get bowl eligible. It was a chance to beat an FSU team that is very beatable, and we'll see if those things can happen. But we're at a feeling right now as a fan base that we don't expect those things to happen, or most of us don't. That is not the University of Florida. The University of Florida is not a program to be talked about in the media where culture should be questioned. The University of Florida is not a program where successful recruiting should be questioned. The University of Florida should never lose 4 games in a row and blown out in 2 of those. This is not a program that should be seen as a non-competitor in the SEC and one of the worst teams in the state of Florida. Yet here we are, all those things are true. A reset is needed, a culture change is needed, and Scott Strickland needs to take that into account when he hires his first head coach for the University of Florida football program. With everything I mentioned so far, there's still enough talent for this program to take the right steps in the next couple of years. And the right guy can figure this out and make fans excited again, show some progress, make us believe that this program is back to where it should be. But look, this is where the program is at right now. And can it change? Can we get something out of the rest of this season? I doubt it. Our coaches around the nation now looking at this program in a different light. I'm sure they are. But look, this is still the University of Florida. This is still a program you can come in and recruit well. You can win at. You have the spotlight on you. You can be big time. You can be one of the nation's best. You can come in and be one of the nation's best for a long time. And now we've seen Tim Tebow. We've seen other people out there who sit there and say, you have to have the right mindset to come in and get this job. And it's been evident that the last two coaching hires haven't had that. Muschamp, for all his recruiting success and in-balance recruiting, for the way the defense was, look, we see where that went. Followed up by Jim McElwain's subpar recruiting. And is the program in any better shape now when Muschamp left than under Jim McElwain? I mean, I'm going to talk about that, later this week, and I'll bring Bill King on. He'll join the show, and we'll kind of talk about that tomorrow. But we'll see. This program is, like I said, it needs a reset. And where does it go from here? All those questions that are circling about Florida and where this program is heading and what this program needs, they're legit. I mean, and who's it going to take to come in here and change that? Is it a guy who's out there who doesn't have a lot of head coaching success, but can it be more than just, we need a guy with great offense? It's going to take more than just that. It's going to have to a guy who's going to come in here and change the culture, change the thought process, change the players' mentality of wanting to go out there and play in the swamp and play in front of the fans and go out there and expect to win. I don't think this team thinks that way now. And I think after time of Jim McElwain's approach, and hey, look, we go back to Jim McElwain's first season and when he jumped on Kelvin Taylor and for doing the throat slash after he scored a touchdown, and that's all we've seen from Jim McElwain as far as an intense type of coach. And I think eventually that just kind of filtered its way down to these players, and there's no hype, there's no being afraid of the Gators anymore. And that kind of went away with Muschamp's defense in a way. We see the lack of this defense right now. The defense that Jim McElwain had his first two seasons was the last time anybody who played Florida had anything to be afraid of. There's nothing when you look at Florida and you line up on the other side of Florida. What are you afraid of? What is another team afraid of? That's not showing. And look, there's a reason the change is made. I know we're just kind of harping on things that we could have said last week after the firing, but it's even more evident now after this Missouri game. The talent's not there, the coaching's not there, the mindset's not there, and that's not the University of Florida. It's not. Clear as day. It is not. And so, as I said, I just kind of wanted to put this podcast together. It was going to be a short episode. Not much to say. I don't have too much of time, but I know you guys out there like to check us out here on Gators Breakdown. As I mentioned, getting to this a bit more with Bill King as he joins the show. That show won't have a live showing. I'll just post the audio on Monday night as I normally do around the same time, Monday night. So look for it around the late night, 9-10 p.m. area. Bill has some strong thoughts on this Florida job, and he'll share them with us and kind of what coach it's going to take to come in here and change this mindset and of what he sees. Bill King watches more college football than anybody. He is the king of college football. So what he's going to say about Florida, you can best believe it comes with an unbiased opinion and what he thinks. And I'll get his opinion on the good and the bad, the future, the past. We'll get it all from Bill King. And as far as the job goes, for the head coaching position, no news really as far as the search goes on. Other jobs will come open. Um, so Tennessee, Texas A&M looks like someone's on his way out. Ole Miss probably shouldn't affect the Florida job too much. Arkansas is another job to watch for. Um, what any coaches that are out there uh, who could uh, who could get the Florida job, but there's going to be some a pool of schools out there that Florida may end up being competing with for Scott Frost, for Mike Norvell, for Chip Kelly, whoever's name you want to throw out there. Florida's not going to be the only school after him. So we'll see with Florida making their decision early if it helps them in corralling a coach. And I didn't even mean to go this way. I said corralling, but speaking of Matt Corral, there's some quotes out there from him where of course, he's really interested in what's going to happen with this Florida head coaching position. He's saying some right things, but it is obvious that he is going to keep his eye on that and see where this program is headed. And hey, look, I can't blame any recruit out there right now. I know we say commit to a program, not a coach. But look, guys, that's hard. You're in those situations. It is, you look at your superiors to kind of lead you along the way. And if your superior is not there and you don't believe in that superior or you don't know that superior, then, well, it's going to be difficult, especially in the world of college football. These are 17, 18, 19-year-old kids who are going to have to trust people. And if they don't really know the guy, then, okay, it's going to be hard to put your trust in somebody you hardly know. So I don't blame any recruit for wanting to look around. We'll see what happens, see if this class can stay together. I believe if Corral stays, the class will stay together mostly. There's going to be some decommits on the team as well. There's going to be some transfers, so to look out for that. But it's gonna happen. If Florida makes the right decision, gets the right coach, all will work out. It would definitely work out. I see some guys on the YouTube chat. I'll try and get to some thoughts here and kind of piece together, some what you guys are thinking. There is a big debate, and I would definitely talk more about it later this week. We'll see. It was a hot button topic when I posted it on Twitter, so I had a poll. I'll share poll results later on in the week of, is this program any better when Jim McElwain leaves it than when Will Muschamp left it? There's not an easy answer. Not really sure there's a right answer. I think if you say it's in better shape now, you can defend that. If you think it was in better shape than Will Muschamp left, you can defend that. You can look at it in different kind of ways, position groupings, position units, one position in particular, the quarterback position. There's different ways to look at it. I'll get Bill King's thoughts on that. Will Miles will join me later in the week. And also talking about coaching stuff, and read Will Miles' latest article. Got people thinking a little bit, he's naming his thought would be David Shaw getting the head job for Florida. That's who Florida should be targeting, somebody like David Shaw from Stanford, head coach at Stanford. So, we'll kind of see, Will's thoughts behind that. He laid out some good reasons for that. I don't think David Shaw would leave Stanford. That's kind of more his dream job. That's where he's from. His dad, I believe, coached there as well. Will said that in his article. So, we'll kind of see where that goes. But, hey, look, Florida's a big program. Florida does not need to settle for a head coach. If Scott Strickland really believes in the guy he's targeting, if he really believes that's his guy, if he believes that guy can win, money should not be an option. You go out there and get that guy. If that is your guy, and you're offering him the position, you're telling me, you're telling everybody else when that hire is made, that's the guy that can turn around Florida football. So money is not an option. Money should not be an option for the University of Florida. We'll kind of, it's really important. I think, of course, his legacy will be known for this first football hire. And we'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. So I'll look at some comments here. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, well, you can look at the talent, and I'll go back kind of to the point of The talent in the McElwain and Muschamp. Of course, Muschamp, better defensive talent. McElwain, we say better offensive talent, but we don't get to see the results. The offensive line doesn't, not the offensive line, the offense itself. We say there's playmakers, and the quarterback position's holding them back, but stats don't show it. Stats show it's just as bad, if not worse, under the McElwain regime than under the Muschamp regime. So, potential is a good word. I see that's being used, but eventually it's going to have to catch up before these players are gone, of course. So that's going to leave a lot in Jim McElwain legacy as well before he's out of here, and see where this program goes after it. As I think there's enough talent for the next guy to come in here and do something. Not saying SEC East, not saying win the SEC, but in these first couple years, you're going to have to show some progress. You're going to have to show that Florida's headed in the right direction, and that's what we'll see when this next hire is made. So, as I mentioned, Bill King will join me later this week, or the next episode should be on Monday. Will Miles will join me midweek. We'll preview the South Carolina game. Will Gunter will join me from South Carolina. Is a radio station up there in South Carolina. I know South Carolina really, really, really well. So, of course, we'll get the Muschamp and the Gamecock side of things when Florida squares up against South Carolina next week. Another noon game on the road. So, of course, we're all going to remember the noon game this past week against Missouri when Florida got pounded there. So I think Florida came out. Florida's a 9.5 point underdog, 9.5 point underdog against South Carolina. So after what I've seen, that's about right. It is about right for the line. So thanks for listening to this episode of Gators Breakdown. Kind of threw it together pretty quick with everything I got going on. Crazy life right now, trying to get a house packed up and moved. So guys, thanks for understanding. Kind of, no co-host tonight or anything. Trying to just get my thoughts out there about where this Florida program, what it looks like right now for these Gators and where it might be headed for the rest of the season. So thanks for listening. You can catch more episodes throughout the week. Remember to follow me on Twitter, David Waters at GatorDave_SEC at GatorDave_SEC, and join Bill Sykes and Will Miles there as well. Find those guys on Twitter. Bill at Real B Sykes and Will Miles at Will Miles SEC. So, as I mentioned, I'm David Waters. Thank you for listening to this episode of Gators Breakdown. Catch you guys later.